Lustpodden riktar sig till alla som är intresserade av lust och relationer i terapi. Podden leds av religionshistorikern och teologen Leif Karlsson och Hanna Möllås som är legitimerad barnmorska, legitimerad psykoterapeut och sexolog med flera auktorisationer i sexologi. Dagens Lustpodd är en fortsättning på förra veckans avsnitt där Tonny Bønløkke Hertz, som arbetar i Köpenhamn med Chemsex-frågor, var med. Och idag kommer han fortsätta att berätta om det här spännande arbetet. Du kan gärna lyssna på förra avsnittet först, men det går bra att hoppa rakt in här. Idag kommer han prata om vad det är som man behöver tänka på som terapeut i mötet med personer som beskriver ett chemsex-beteende, men också vad han gör själv för att ta hand om sig själv i arbetet med det här stora lidandet som han möter. But what do you do to help these people? What are your possibilities?
Yeah.
I want to go down there and help you because it breaks my heart with all these people who wants to be shame-free, but are so full of shame.
That is a big question, a very good question. Because I'm not naive and I'm not a magician.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm a social worker also. I forgot to tell that in the beginning.
That's okay.
My ground education. And I'm so used to helping people. You come in with a problem, you want a job, I give you a job. Yeah. You want money, I give you money. You know, so I was so used to fixing.
Yes.
So this was a big learning for me because I cannot fix this.
No.
So I have to, really be leaning down, leaning back and think I can only help them if they want to be helped.
Yeah.
And some people have, that in many other things that when people come to stop smoking, it's because the partner have told them. Mm-hmm. You have an issue, you go to the doctor and they fix it for you. Some people are in my office because some people have said to them that they have an issue with drugs. I cannot help those people.
No.
The other people, if they really want, it's not easy. But what I do is actually to try to divide that take the drugs away from the sex. Mm-hmm. So they kind of have to learn sex from the beginning again.
Oh, yeah, that's
because it's so much dopamine intake with crystal meth. And if you keep connecting them, if you go to a normal rehab center, they have changed a bit after all this. But in the beginning, they would say, you have to stop doing drugs. Otherwise, we cannot help you.
No, that's right. But I think they say that in Sweden.
Yeah. I think so too. But we don't do that in Denmark anymore. But of course, that's the underlying goal.
Yeah.
But because this is connected to sex, they would also say, stop having sex. But then my theory is, if I say to you, don't do drugs, don't do sex for 3 months, and then you can start. But you haven't learned to separate it. So
true.
when you think sex again, you will think drugs.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to help them to get back to a sex life without drugs, which is a long journey. So we start in the very low end with just, some of them just see some porn, which is not including drugs, because they also start to change what they see.
Yeah.
Start to think, let them think about when they do sex with themselves. What do they think of? Just to be aware. In the beginning, we just work with awareness. Okay, so that's your pattern. When you do jerk off, you need to see something or imagine that drugs included. Then we'll start to practice that. Ask them to practice to think of something else. Every time the drug thought comes up, move away. And then the next will be to maybe change your profile text on Grindr. Just, totally low key. How would it be for you to write that you don't want drugs? How would it be to say, I'm not one Tina, And then we go to the next. When do you go to the next party? Could you try to just do some cocaine, some MDMA? Is there another drug? So I'm also doing really harm reduction on the drug part.
Yeah.
But it's always with the focus on the sexual part. So it could be set up a date. how would it be to maybe take the blindfold off?
Yeah.
How would it be to look the partner in your eyes instead of turning the back? How would it be just to be with a guy in the bed, just laying, be touched? You know, a sensible
feeling.
Training. Yeah, exactly. And go with the emotion. How does it actually feel? So, okay, up on here, on the chest, it's okay, but going closer to the neck, no. Okay, back and forth. And this, for sometimes, are easier if you have a partner, of course, that don't do drugs.
No.
Otherwise, I will just train them to go out, you know, just setting up a date, you know, how is it to talk about the drugs? That's not supposed to be a part of the next session. And to say that we have come to this, that it's maybe better, because in the beginning it was like I felt, you know, a bit, they didn't succeed. But it is a long journey. And also to set up, you know, okay, because most of the people are not ready to give it up totally. And in the gay community in Copenhagen and the worldwide, the whole world, drugs is there.
Yeah.
So how do you, if we also disconnect Grindr for half a year, what will you do when you come back? Grindr is still there, drugs is still there. So you have to also learn to be on the apps without feeling that you need to do drugs. So it's simple training on every aspect that can be. Practice to say it out loud, but also to set up something, you know. And many of them have, they cannot even remember, you know. We also talk about, when did you last time have sober sex? Yeah. Some people can't even remember. And I'm like, but can you remember, if I say it out loud, can you remember the first time you gave another guy a blowjob? How the thrill, you know. And you can see people actually get sparkling in the eyes, because it's not necessarily they can remember the situation, but they can remember the feeling. So like, okay, there is something there.
The feeling without drugs.
Yeah. And then we have to get you back there. Yeah. But maybe during the journey, you have to allow yourself that next Saturday or New Year's Eve or the Pride, whatever, it's okay to do drugs. Because the thinking of never
makes them anxious.
Yeah, and it's too big a step. We have to smaller step, baby steps. So how is it to be free for the next 3 weeks? Sometimes I've actually seen my clients every Friday. Just a half an hour, not a whole session. Just come in, check in with me. Are you okay? How is your weekend? Because we also in the beginning have to build fences. To avoid. How can you avoid to do a party next Saturday? And we also recommend, it's so inappropriate in Sweden.
Go for it. We're not politically correct in this podcast, so it's okay.
Because we also recommend for many people, it's working to smoke a joint. Because a joint is a downer, where crystal meth is a big upper.
That's
so
right.
if you can stay home and just smoke a joint, watch a cartoon, laugh the whole weekend, for some people that can be a help. And it's
just
okay.
Take care of you.
Yeah. And it's okay in the beginning, but at some point you need to face it. Yeah. Because the hard way is also to sit alone. Because many of them feel so alone. Loneliness is also, talking about shame, internalized homophobia, loneliness is a big issue. So when you sit alone and you cry, the easiest, not the best, but the easiest way out is often just to do drugs.
And go out partying, but...
Yeah, because then you forget. Yeah. Then you will feel the loneliness next Thursday, and then the Friday is coming and you can do it again. Yeah. And many of the people that try to get out, they have nothing to put instead. No. So if you stop doing drugs, your friends are gone. Because they still do drugs. And for somehow, you know, it's like also when people don't drink, many people can relate to this. I think when you are at a party and you see this person coming in and say, no, I just want a glass of water. We all think like, they're destroying the party. Yeah. We can relate to that, yeah? I have also been like that until now. It's like, no. I mean, of course you can party just in a glass of water, but it takes time. But for many people, it's actually a bit of a downer. So, and if you suddenly leave your friends, you cannot go back and say, I don't do drugs. You're not welcome
it's
anymore.
Part of the culture and and the community. Yeah. So
if they quit, they feel so lonely. Yeah. And they don't know where to go. And people are not very nice because, you know, Hannah, we like to party together. You were so fun. We had such a good sex. Yes. Come on. It's Saturday. Yeah. Come over. Yeah. So even you trying to say, Tonny, no, I'm really trying to quit. Come on, it's just a Saturday. You can do it every Saturday. Oh. I even have a client where he's having sex with a guy that don't do drugs. And he told him that he wanted to quit, and the non-drug user was saying, no, it's just crystal meth. You're only doing it in weekends. I like to have sex with you. Ooh. Because he wants the good sex. So it is really, really hard for many of them. They took to quit. Yeah. So at the moment, the longest run we have had is a straight guy, actually, which I normally don't do as a client. But he have had a couple of years now, totally without. He just had a relapse, but not crystal meth. But otherwise, 8-9 months. Wow. And then they have a relapse. But then we're working with not thinking it as a relapse, but then plan it instead, because it's also about taking control. Oh, that's so good. If I'm jumping in, falling in, or use all those frames about it, it's a mistake. And then I can punish myself afterwards, like, okay, you see, you can't do it. No. You're not worth it. You're a bad person, blah, blah, blah. If I instead saying, I love to party at Pride, or every time I go to San Francisco, it's okay to do party, but then take control about it, and then do it with pleasure. Yeah, and stand for it. Take responsibility for it. Exactly, and say, okay, I do this because I want to have good sex. I just had another client. He went to the cruise ship. It's a big gay cruise ship, which is full of drugs. And he went there, and he was like, he normally don't do drugs. His issue is more the sexual part. And he said to me, I was so fucked up for a week. Yeah. But then I thought, okay, if I do it that 1 week per year, if I go back to that ship, wouldn't it be okay? And maybe we just have to say that, maybe that is okay, because to do nothing the rest of your life is, for many gay people, it's impossible. They don't even dare to look into the future without drugs. No.
Oh, I'm so mind blown about all that you're saying, about your knowledge about this. It's just so amazingly.
It's maybe not that structured as you wanted it.
No. We're never structured when we talk, you and I. But that, I think, it doesn't have to be structured, because you are structured, and it's very easy to feel what you feel for your clients. Yeah, it's very easy. Yeah.
I do take my job very seriously, but I also, if we talk about me in it, just as job, I feel privileged in a way, because this job we have. I mean, there come clients into my office. They have been like 5 minutes, and they tell me things that they would never even tell their closest friends, or their boyfriends, or their wives, or their husbands.
It's such a privilege.
It is a privilege. Yeah. So I take it very seriously, but it's also not to complain, but it's also rough, because of some of the stories, and because of the change, more and more people get addicted to it. They become younger and younger, and for some reason, I mean, I had a guy, he was 65. He started when he was 65. Oh my! And it's, I can live with that. I mean, he's old enough to make his own choice. But he wanted to quit. He couldn't. But then he just decided, I'm so old. He came out very late, so he just had something, he had to live his life. Yeah. There's a big difference between having him and this young guy, 18, yes, of course, who's already psychotic. Yeah. It's like there's a long way home.
Yeah. So what do you do to take care of yourself? Because I can imagine that this clientele is very heavy, it's very intense, and some of them know your friends, it's a small community. Yeah. How do you do to take care of yourself and just be able to go to work, even if you love it and you know that you're important in their lives? How do you take care of yourself?
I want to share a secret. Because there was a certain time where I wasn't that good in it. Because of the mixture, because I'm a part of the community. So all my friends, and a lot of my friends still do drugs. Not the heavy drugs, but just, some cocaine or amphetamine, New Year's Eve. And I can still be in that. I can be in the presence of that without, I'm fine with that. But at certain points, a lot of my friends, I suddenly realized I was working at my workplace, but I was also working when I was off. Because the people that don't see me could not seek me as a client. They could seek me as a friend. Yeah. And
so you're working all the time.
Yeah, and they were taking kind of advantage of me, but I didn't see it because I want to be the the loved one. I want to do my job good. So they actually,
you're a social worker. You want to help everyone.
Exactly. And I suddenly realized, that I was sitting, at the end of the table at a dinner party, and people were just questioning me, all these, what do we do with bareback? What do you, all kind of knowledge about HIV and STDs and whatever, drugs. And my husband, he said, did you notice that you were working the whole night again? And I was like, Suddenly I realized, and then there was one particular friend, he did it a lot. And I just wanted to be the good friend. And I thought that, your friendship is equal. So you give me something, I give you something. It have to balance. And I actually thought that I also gained something from it.
Yeah.
And then my husband again said, you were talking 2 hours. It came to my mind that he didn't ask you once, how are you? Because I could hear on your talk that it was all about him. And then my workplace, because it started to increase with all the cases. And I was like, no. So I had to go to a psychologist actually to have I need actually professional help here, space. And that helped me a lot.
Yeah.
So I had to look at my own shit and my own shares. And now I'm still very happy about my work, but they are good in taking care of me, and I'm good, because it goes all the way around.
Yeah.
So so we're good in looking at the number. How many do we have of those cases?
Yeah.
We divide them into, forebyggende preventions.
Yeah.
Because some people came maybe in at the door and say, I'm doing drugs, blah, 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 but I only do some MDMA. Then I have, a list of the different drugs. We talk about how they affect your body and how can you be high without doing the dangerous drugs.
Yeah.
Totally different from Sweden.
Yeah. I understand. I know a lot of listeners will go, what did he say? But I love this.
Say that.
Yeah, I think it's so good.
So I take some of those, and then I have still some social work cases once in a while. And then I have people that just have again, quote marks, sexual issues. Because it's if you sit with just 10 per week of those cases, it's too much. So I am in the place now where I'm much better in seeing it. I dare to say it out loud. I cannot take anymore. No. My limit is
this
full.
Is enough.
Yeah. And I need to do some fun stuff as well. So it's either just sexual stuff, but it's also that I'm a tillidsrepræsentant at my workplace. So, I do other stuff just to be not too full of it.
No.
Because it is.
That's very good.
And then also confidential between you and me. Sometimes the cases are so crazy that we somehow, have to laugh a bit about it.
Yeah,
because it's so heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, as I told you, this person thinks that he's related with Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
And the way they can talk about it is so convincing.
Yeah.
That you're like, in the beginning, it was like, not about that with Paris Hilton,
but yeah.
Because it started very slowly, there was this guy on the street, I saw he was checking me out, or it's a police, because they all have the same, hallucinations. So you also laugh a bit, but you have to mix to be sure.
Yeah.
And again, because I'm a social worker, I like to fix things. So I need cases once in a while that I can fix in a way. Just say, okay, take the pill, go out, and then everything is good.
You have to ask them beforehand. Are you someone I can fix? I understand.
Yeah. And with the Chemsex cases, I mean, I have to, because of all that, what happened that years ago, I also learned to put my expectations down. And actually try not to have expectations on my clients. I mean, it is their work.
Yeah.
I can just do my best to reflect with them, do the mirror, help them, maybe guide them, walk with them.
But they have to do the work.
They have to walk themselves. I can just take their hands and they have to do the work. And some of them, luckily, also are very good. But then, in 8 months, and then they will relapse. And then it's like another thing, because when they then relapse, because before they learn to take control, they talk about relapse, and then when they get the first, they get it's like a series. They start, so maybe it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times before we can. Then we start all over again,
okay.
And it is a bit static. But most of the people actually are still learning something from it, because they start to see the imagination that we have such a good sex life when we are high is not true. They start to see the demons on the way back. Was he a nice person, or was he actually a bit, the psychosis is sneaking in? But they are aware of what's going on. And then I'm like, yes, now we can work, because when you can see this, then you're ready to actually move. But it takes time to come to that. So I'm working one hand with the whole mindset, but on the sexual part. And then when they come back and say, yes, I gave another guy, smiling, I gave a guy a blowjob the other day, and it was good.
Yeah.
In the beginning, they will come back and see, the task was like, it was okay, not really. But when they come and say, smiling, it was good. Then it's like, okay, now there is the opening, because now you can see that sex doesn't need, because it's also, many of them also think that sex has to be 12 hours, a minimum. Yeah. Otherwise, it's not good. But it's also because they start to change what they're doing in the bedroom. Yeah. And some things, when you like to play with bigger things, it takes more preparation, and trust. So you're not building that up in half an hour.
No.
So it also makes sense that they need longer sessions. Yeah. But you can do longer sessions also without the drugs.
But what would you say to someone that says, well, sex will never be as good again without the drugs? Have you heard that before?
Oh, yes.
What can I say? I've never used drugs. What can I say to talk to someone about that?
I would not lie, and I would actually say you're probably right.
Yeah.
Because this is very technical, but not technical. It's more physiological. It's in the brain. I normally do it very simple to talk about. If you imagine, if we do it very simple, a cake gives 20 dopamine. Yeah. The brain loves it. It wants more. The brain loves fat and sugar.
I know.
And it loves sex. It gives 100 dopamine. Yeah. Cocaine gives you 300. Yeah. Crystal meth gives you 1100 dopamine. Okay. So just to, that's the scale. So you have to learn to go from that.
It's a lot of cake.
It's a lot of cake. And you have to learn to go from 1100 to 100. It can be painful. Yeah. You have to say goodbye.
I understand, yeah.
So maybe...
You have to know what motivates you, that you will gain something else.
Yes,
then?
Exactly. Because as I used the example, can you remember the first blowjob? You were so excited. He came he came maybe to your house, or you did it in a bar, the toilet, and you were chilling, the whole body was shivering. Yeah. That is something different from the 1100 dopamine that you get from the drugs. So you have to learn to scale down in that sense, but it doesn't mean that sex cannot be good, but it will never be the same.
You will gain something else.
Yeah. And you can learn as a new thing. You can actually learn all over again. I do have clients, from back then that they don't do drugs anymore, and now have a good sex life.
Oh, that's
but it takes time.
Yeah. That's
and then you have
nice.
to practice, and for some people, maybe they need to take puppets for 2 years after, just to have something. But then you can learn it. But it's a matter of a big will. But it's also a matter of the pressure you feel from the community, because it's so legalized now in the gay community that we do drugs. We talk it as it is candy. I actually one time I did a podcast in Copenhagen, and then we started to talk about abuse, and the technicians for the program. She suddenly stopped the program because we talk about overgreb, abuse, rape, and she stopped, and she was crying out loud. She said, "We have to stop. Do you know what you're sitting and talking about? There will be people sitting out there listening to this, and you talk about it as if it was a caramella." Yeah, it was like. But for us, it's such a big part of my work, and I cannot.
You cannot be that sensitive about it. You have to talk about it.
Yeah. And with my clients, it's so normal, and a lot of them have they got HIV in a setting like that. It's common, or it's well known that some people overdose you on purpose. But it's also going the other way around. Some people have this idea of a rape session. So we agree that it's a rape session.
Okay.
But then you know, as before, I'm sleeping out because I had too much G, and you're inviting 5-hour guys, and then you are tired and you go home. We don't know what will happen, yeah?
No.
So it is a big thing, and we do actually see also a race in abuse on many levels, but we also do see rapes. We do see and we do hear stories about that some people, you know, the worst case. I have to say that we're talking about a community in the community, which is small.
I understand.
The Chemsex community is a small community in the gay community. And in that community, the Chemsex, in small part of that, are also have done the drugs for so long that they're getting twisted fantasies and want to do it, you know, out in the open. So there are people there are HIV positive. So pretend that they're taking the medication, which they don't. Or pretend they are on PrEP, and therefore they can have sex without condom, because the purpose is to give it. There are cases from London where we have there was a guy called the Grinder Killer. He killed 5 young boys, overdosed them with G, and then, you know, slaughtered them. We have example from Holland where there was a case where some people were planning they had gangbangs parties. And they were injecting people with crystal meth. But they took the needle from themselves first. And they were HIV positive, and they injected that directly into the veins. We also do have few examples of that in Denmark.
It's very twisted,
It's and I mean, these people was actually people, you know, as I start to say out, these people are actually clever people. They used to have good jobs. So it's not because they're evil.
No.
But that drug just tear your brain apart,
destroy them.
And you go into that little part where you are like Hitler and other people like doing crazy things because they are so, you know, obsessed with something. I don't know the actual answer of it, but I just see this as you know, the bad side of the medal, because they start to think that it's good and they're enjoying themselves, but
when a lot of our listeners are therapists themselves. And maybe this is the first time that they've heard about this phenomenon. But what can you give them? I suppose that it's very good to send people to specialist clinics, but also we know that there are so few, and you're not funded enough. But what can a therapist do? What do they need to think about?
They need to think about. I think it's very important to be, of course, open in the beginning, to actually listen to what's behind. So, you know, gay people would not talk about this as a gangbang. We would talk about it as a party. So I said to you, I went to a party Saturday. And you would think that I have been out dancing. So we have to check, what do you mean when you say party?
Oh, that's so good.
So that's just, you know, a simple thing. And always be prepared that if you ask a question, be prepared for what you will get in return.
So true.
Because maybe you get the truth. So that's the first step, you know, and know why you want to go there, and then check out what kind of drugs do they do. And I don't know how the law is in Sweden, but just to say, okay, so was it a good party? Was it a sex party? You know, just take, you know, the
normalize it.
Normalize it. So was it a sex party? Oh, it was in Stockholm, or was it in Berlin? Also, the trigger can be if gay people say, I have been to Berlin. That's also London. Then it's like, okay, then check out if it was a sex party. Or maybe for Swedish people, Copenhagen. Then check out, okay, so was it a sex party? Yeah. And then you just don't like, oh, was it a good party? Yeah. So did people do a lot of drugs there? You know, to talk about the other ones, and then you will feel if it's okay to talk about this.
That's good. Did you get the permission?
Exactly, and then we can go deeper. You know, did you do drugs yourself? Oh yes, a little. So what's your favorite drugs? You know, instead of what kind of drugs did you do? But what is your favorite drugs? And if they say crystal meth and GHB, then we should be more aware, because then we're talking about some heavy drugs. If they say MDMA, I wouldn't be that worried. But maybe it would be good to talk about that. Don't go further with harder drugs. If they talk the other ones, then say, okay, so how often do you do it? check in if they're smoking it, if they are injecting it.
Yeah.
Because that's also say something on the how long time have you been in the game?
Yeah.
Because most people would not start to inject it.
No.
But I do also have clients
that started like that.
Yeah, because the guy they were together with,
he injected.
He was so trustful.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, he have done it many times, and I could see it was working. But check out. Okay, so how long? And then the hard part would be to check if they have started to have psychosis. Because in the beginning they will maybe tell you stories, and it's like, yeah, but then he did, and then he did. But it's not necessary what's happening actually happening. But that's hard. I mean, that's have to come from because it's only a feeling.
Yeah, I
and
understand.
Some of the, but because if I came to you and said, yeah, but then I like to be fucked by a toilet brush, talk about it like this, you would maybe be thinking, he's over exaggerating.
That's
and
true.
I'm not necessarily doing that because if they kind of things. But if I start to say, yeah, but then there was this guy and he was doing weird things, I'm thinking, and it could be true because of the stories I just told you. Like there are those bad people out there.
Yeah.
They are not the most.
No, but so they are there.
Yeah. So it could actually be truth what they're saying, but it could also be a start of psychosis.
Oh, that's so good to know.
Yeah.
That's good to talk about. Yeah.
And if you're not capable of it, just check it off because it could influence on the rest of what your session is about. But it's good to know that drugs can be an issue for gay people because what if I come and say to you, it's hard for me to get a hard on. You would maybe check, do you have diabetes? Do you have all those kind of things? But if you're not aware that drugs actually can make it not hard, that I need Viagra every weekend, but I forget to tell you that. So maybe just to check it off. So just when you see a gay person, I don't know the statistic in Sweden, but in Amsterdam they did a cohort many years ago actually, but for people that were testing HIV negative, they were asked if they wanted to join a cohort so they could follow them the next 10 years, whatever. And the questionnaire they had to fill out, they were being asked about drug use. Just, like, do you take the train to work? Do you do drugs? Like that. And 80% of the cohort people were doing drugs.
Oh my. Wow.
So I'm not saying it's like that in Sweden and Denmark, but it is very normalized to do drugs. So if you have a gay client or trans client as well, because it's also they do a lot of drugs too, just check it up. Just check it. I mean, is it okay? And can we talk about it? And of course, confidentiality. I don't know how they would react in Sweden. But of course, that's an important part to check. Is it okay? Can we talk about this? You can be confident. You can trust me in this.
Yeah, I want to help you.
Yeah, because it could say something about the relationship. It could say something about how you can work with it. So.
Oh, that's so good. It's I think I could sit here talk to you all night about this because it's so interesting and it's so I do understand the intense that you meet with these people and the community and the big issues that are there, but still when you talk it's so hopeful.
Yeah.
And even if you say that, there's so many relapses and there might be so many problems, but still it's very hopeful to hear you talk about this. And you should be like president of helping people from Chemsex to sex where they can enjoy and feel free.
And I also think as a therapist, we also have to be, when these kind of cases, just be happy for the blowjob without the drugs.
Yes.
It's a big step.
Yes.
Because all you have done in the last 10 years, because you know exactly what to do when you're doing the drugs, because you don't care. So if you are rejecting me, I'm like, you just piss off. I take the next one.
Yeah.
And I don't care. And we also lower our standards. And it's like, because it's not him. It's not his body. It's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's why we wake up with even more shame when we look at the grinder. what have I been doing?
But Tonny, I would really love to just say that this was amazing. And I think that a lot of listeners have heard about this for the first time, maybe, but also you have insight from your own life, but also from all the clients that you meet. And I would like to wish you and pray for that you will have a lot of funding, that you can help a lot of people, and that you also can train other sexologists and therapists that can carry on your work, because your knowledge is very important.
Thank you. And I can tell you, it is a part of dagens sexual education. Yes, we have Chemsex on the agenda.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah. And you're teaching.
Yes.
The best man in the world is teaching the Chemsex. I think that's very, very good. Because sexologists need to know about all kind of areas, even the ones that they're not, dealing with in their daily basis work, but they need to know about these things.
Yeah. And just to add one more comment, because chemsex is defined because it's a gay man, because David Stewart defined it like that. But we also do see a lot of drug use in the straight community.
Yes.
GHB is known as a drug rape drug. It's so easy to overdose people and they pass out and you can have sex with them for like 6 hours. They wake up and they know something have happened. They go to the center for rape or, but you cannot trace it.
No.
After 8 hours, it's out of the body. So you can't even trace it. So you cannot really be sure that it was.
No.
So it is something that we have to be aware of. Drugs is everywhere, but there's just something special about the gay community because of the way we are using it. Yeah.
And thank you for being so honest about that and talking about this in so openly, and also being so hopeful that it is possible to do something.
It is possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Bye.
I nästa veckas avsnitt så kommer vi, som så många gånger innan när vi har haft olika gäster som berättar om spännande ämnen, ha ett samtal mellan mig och Leif där vi resonerar vidare kring de här frågorna som har tagits upp. Så i nästa vecka så pratar jag och Leif om Chemsex. Du har lyssnat till Lustpodden. För mer information och tips från programmet så hänvisar vi till lustpodden.se. Där kan du också kontakta oss om du vill vara med och berätta din berättelse om lust och relationer i terapi. Signaturmelodin är skapad av Johan Nilsson och redaktör och producent och ansvarig för klippning är Julia Linde.